My guest today is Natalie Tolhopf, New Zealand's leading sales and mindset coach. Over the last decade, Natalie has coached hundreds of business owners to cultivate powerful self-belief and develop the confidence to sell with simplicity and success. After growing her own profitable business, with some failures along the way, Natalie knows that success starts with your mindset. She is an experienced speaker and facilitator, guiding business owners to quit looking to others for guidance and trust your inner mentor so you can finally step into your role as an unstoppable leader. Natalie is the author of Allergic to Perfect, How to Ditch Your Doubt and Take Imperfect Action to Grow Your Biz, and her latest book, Become Unstoppable. Now, Nat and I have been friends for about, 7 years. We've also been each other's clients. And the one thing that really stands out for me about Nat is her generosity. She is the one with the pom-poms out there to celebrate other people's success. She's been a huge champion of mine. She's kicked my butt into action more times than I could count. I have bruises, and she's super fun to have around. And I could not be more thankful to have her as a biz buddy and friend. So I know you're going to love hearing Nat's real and honest wisdom about both becoming unstoppable and about the process of writing her book. So welcome, Nat.
Oh, that is such a beautiful welcome. That was so lovely. You know, I want to think you'd know how to write.
Oh, I try. Perhaps we should all record and listen to our own podcast intros, and then we feel.
Oh, I really appreciated what you said in the intro in terms of like being that pom-pom and cheerleader for others. It's taken me a really long time in my life to go, hey, actually, what if I did that for myself? Which sparked that Unstoppable book. What I think now, in hindsight, which is a wonderful thing.
That recognition that that you could be your own cheerleader.
Yeah, or that, you know, what we give to ourselves, what we give to others, we've got to first check that actually, do we need that first? And I think as women, we don't do that well.
Why do you think we find that hard?
I think it's just completely in our DNA of you have to do everything, and I think it comes from. And I don't know if it's this particularly Western woman. We don't have the villages or the, what do you call it? Like your grandmother, your great grandmother, your aunts. We don't all live together and support each other. We very much isolate ourselves. So then we literally have to do all the things.
And then we start looking to others to compare. Is that what we're doing?
I think so. I think it's a real trait of women, particularly women in business, where that I get to see it a lot in myself and other women, that for some reason we won't see ourselves at the same level as that we'll place other people. And I just was hell-bent on like, why is that? Why don't we do that? And I think it's just realizing that we do it first of all and then doing something about it.
Yeah, that comparison and looking to other people and comparing where they're at versus where you're at is a real theme. Possibly of both of your books, but certainly of Become Unstoppable, where we start to look at how many followers have they got, how many followers have I got, why have I not hit that crazy milestone that was always well beyond where I should be aiming at this point. Yeah. It's like we set the bar too high and then kick ourselves for not getting there.
You know, I don't know if you'll agree, but you know, I think it's about how we will look to where we've got to go and go, oh, there's so much further to go yet, as opposed to going, oh, actually, I've come a long way. And even though that's cliche, it's really important, because if we keep, you know, flagellating ourselves to going, oh, I'm not there yet, therefore I'm not good enough yet, as opposed to, hang on a minute, you're actually come such a long way. Like, I think it's the comparables we're using is really important.
Yeah, I remember at the start of my online business journey, there was, I can't think who it was, but somebody advised, oh, you should use your money goal as your computer password. So every time you're logging into your computer, you're typing out your money goal, which seemed like a great idea, except that the money goal I set was crazy beyond where I should be aiming in my first year. And so then it becomes this, I think you have a special term for this, Nat, but a stick to beat yourself with, because every time you type it in, oh, you're not going to quite hit that goal. So there's something around having actually realistic and achievable goals, as well as aiming higher in the long term.
Listeners, Christine is far too polite to call it actually what it is called, and it's called a shit stick for success.
Tell us about the shit stick for success, Nat.
I think you're right. We're using like poo-poo metrics to where we want to head. And I'm a big believer in manifestation, and you get what you focus on, but I'm a huge realist that if you're starting a business and you're at zero and you say to your brain, my new income goal is going to be $10,000 a month, your literal brain is going to go, I don't actually understand, therefore it makes you uncomfortable, so I'm going to make you feel a little bit shit about it. Yeah. So I'm like, what if we just changed what we're doing with it and brought a little bit of realism and going, hey, what if your goal was 0 to 1,000 a month? Oh, yeah, I can achieve that. So you feel good. So then you go take different actions. And I think the shits that is the point of that chapter is if you're using other, outward metrics that don't make you feel good, you're going to react and take actions that are going to just take you so far away from even hitting a goal that you're in this perpetual loop.
Yeah, and I think in that case, my shit stick password, I didn't have a plan for how I was going to hit that. I just put it in as a crazy money goal. There was no clarity around what I would need to sell or how many programs I would need to run in order to reach that. It was just this crazy lofty number that was somehow going to drop from the sky. Yeah. So good idea, but maybe to just pull it back a bit into where we can hit it.
Yeah, and I agree, like having that plan is really important, but believing the plan is actually deeper, the deeper connection to, I believe I can do those things and I know how. So for me, I was missing often the belief that I could. And that's what I started to see in clients and still do. That's the belief they can do it because the year buts come in.
So how do you cultivate that belief, Nat?
Yeah, well, I suppose it's, a little bit like planting the garden that you want. You've got to start at great soil. And I'm the queen of analogy, so I'm surprised that Christine's like, oh, it's only taking you 10 minutes to drop an analogy. But I think it is like that garden piece, that you've got to start with a really good soil, which means if your brain's full of weeds and you're not studying and saying the right things, then whatever you go plant in there probably won't bloom as well because you're not putting it in the right environments. And I think it's, spending a lot of more time with people who can normalize your feelings. Like, it's okay and normal for things to not work out, for you to feel a certain way. And I think I didn't have that when I first started out. I thought I had to be positive and it was always amazing. And then when it wasn't, you were like, oh, there's something wrong with me because I'm not feeling great about it the whole time. So you've got to just make sure you're starting out with that believability. So good soil, and that you're going to go nurture it the right way.
You also write in Become Unstoppable about giving yourself the grace of time. And a garden requires time in order to grow. And so if you're expecting to hit something within a crazy short amount of time, then you're not really giving it the time it needs to flourish.
Yeah, and it's a good point in terms of that taking the time. And it's the same with that, going back to the seed analogy in the garden, that we can't see germination under the soil, these deep roots, these nourishing deep foundations. And when we can't see those things on top, we can actually go and plant too many seeds that will come together at the same time. And then we've got overwhelm. It can create a whole lot of things happening. But what can happen is if you think something's not working, you can destroy something that's actually going to be beautiful. And there's a problem. That things take time, and in particular business takes time. And I had a conversation with a client this morning she had a big shit stick this morning. She was seriously poking herself in the eyeballs with it and using terrible comparables to where she was at. And she's like, I've been in it this long, you'd think I should know. And I'm like, who says that? Like, where is it written that after a certain amount of time you need to be here or there, or where are you bringing this timeline in from? And then when we actually got her to look at it through another comparison, she was like, oh, it's actually all right, isn't it? It's like, yeah, duh, come on, let's just make sure we're looking at the right stuff.
Yeah, and I saw an interview you did with Nat Coombe last week, or one of your chats with Nats and Hats, which is a show that Natalie Tolhopf does, and with her friend Natalie Coombe. And you were talking about the growth of your income from year one. Or no, you talked about your income in year one and your income in year two. And Nat's immediate response was, well, that's gone up by X%. So even though the gross number may not have felt like where you wanted to be, the growth number was huge. And so it's looking at the right statistics too, not just the ambitious ones.
And I think it's a really good example of looking back or looking forward. And I know which one makes me feel better to look at than the other one. And I think it's a good thing when we talk about, you know, when I meet women who want $1 million businesses, I'm like, is it the accolade you get from yourself for having the $1 million business that you want? Do you realize the complexity that'll come with trying to build that? What is it that you really want? Like, that doesn't have to come from $1 million business. Maybe something paying your salary or selling what you love is going to give you that. It doesn't have to be this, you know, keeping up with the Joneses metric that we put out there.
Yeah, or having the time to do things that you want to do.
Yeah.
With your family. Yeah.
Yeah. If that's your values, right?
Exactly. And early in the book, you talk about this concept of pedestaling. Can you explain what pedestaling is?
Yeah, it's so funny. I remember when we were writing the book together and you were like, Nat, what is this? And I was like, oh, I just thought everyone understood. You know, you just assume people understand the concept how you understand it. And I suppose for me, as pedestaling is that we think someone else is better than us. So we immediately elevate them in our mind. And so we maximize their strengths and their abilities and we minimize our own. And what can happen is we focus on the she's better at that, I'm not, therefore I'm not good enough, so I'm not going to try. And so we can hold people in an unhealthy level, a pedestaling level, and forget to see them as human, and they actually have parts of them that aren't so great either. So for me, pedestaling is, you know, by nature I'm quite a jealous person, which is a funny thing to say, but it's because I see people doing amazing things and I know I've got I know I'd like to do it too. And it's just the being held back, you know, not this enough, not that enough, don't know that, all the shit that you all have. And so for me, it started to play out in pedestaling. So, oh, they're further ahead than me. They must hold the secret key that I still don't know. I'm going to go download their stuff. And then by downloading their stuff and you get their information, as much as it's great information, you're like, oh, damn, I already know this stuff.
We've all done that, haven't we?
Yeah. And I want to normalize that and say to people, hey, actually, if that's happening for you, then actually you need to, as Marie Forleo tells us, the clarity comes from the execution. You've got to go and implement your knowledge. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck in this whole imposter, I need to know more freaking cycle. And it's not a nice place to be.
There's also something there in trusting what you do know.
Yeah.
And believing that it's enough, because the example you give in the book of downloading a lead magnet, and it was the secrets to success, I think, or coaching success, how you can get 5-figure clients or something along those lines. And when you got it, all the things that were in there are things you're already doing.
Yeah.
And we often think that there's something magical or something special that this person has, but really the principles of something like selling are fairly fundamental. We put our own spin on them. But, you know, you have your own knowledge of that situation. You didn't need to go and see what's the way someone else was teaching coaching, right? So, yeah, it's about trusting what you already do know and that it is enough, and that your spin and your take is going to speak to some people in a way that it will not speak to others. So your audience is there as well.
Yeah, and I think I remember I was having some really great conversations about it at the time, like, especially with like, oh, should we call it this title? You know, for a little while there, it was going to be called Expert Enough, because that's what that was about. Like, hey, how old do we have to fucking be? Like, how much more knowledge do you have to soak up? Like, come on already. Go, but back yourself and say, actually, how I want to present marketing, books, selling is actually has its own legs and merit. And the merit being, look at all the testimonial, look at all the people who've gone, oh, this has been so helpful, you do this is, when are we going to actually support that and go, actually, guys, I actually think I'm quite good at this, you know? Yeah, it takes time though, doesn't it, to finally go. I don't know if it's an age thing where you just give these fucks about stuff and you're like, let's own it now, guys, or I don't know. For me, it's been an age thing or a maturity thing.
So do you feel like you're there, or is it more it comes and goes?
I feel like it's there, and it comes and goes in terms of, I never want to come across as someone who's full of themselves, ego, like, we never want to be that kind of like, I am the best. I think we all know those people who feel the need to say it like that. I never want to be like that, which then helps me know I probably never will be, because I'm not going to walk around going, hi everyone, I'm the best there. You know what I mean? But yeah, definitely. So for example, and I think I talk about it in the book, if I'm going to be doing something that's a little bit out of my scope or out of what I would normally do, but if it's a subject that I do know, I'm not going to go and research it, over prepare. I'm going to be like, actually, my expertise is going to come from being in the moment and answering from my understanding at that one moment in time. And that's powerful, because you connect. Like if I'd over prepared for this for you, the connection would be really, it'd be robotic. It wouldn't be complete. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So when you talk about becoming unstoppable, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I remember reading it, and might just read it here, because we put it in the book, didn't we? Which is really cool. And if you are watching this vid,
yes,
Bo Taplin, she was unstoppable, not because she did not have failures or doubts, but because she continued on despite them. And so when people say to me, Nat, how do you just do all these things and put yourself out there? You're so brave. I'm like, I'm not. I'm still shit scared doing it, guys, but I'm doing it despite that. And for me, that's one of the reasons of being in business so long, is I don't let that stuff drive me anymore. It's still there. I still hear it and understand it, and I know that it wants to keep me safe, and I sometimes listen to it and have a chat. And then I'm like, okay, we've got to carry on anyway, because the reasons you're giving me are actually not big enough to not make me want to go out there.
And you write in the book about, without giving the whole book away, about even, I mean, it's got the most dramatic and beautiful cover. I'll share a link to the book, of course. And it's a very a different look for you from your previous book, from even your previous branding. And it's interesting, the piece you write about how challenging that was for you to put yourself out there in that way. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. As much as I'm a very logical 1+1 person, there's a real intuitive side to myself that as I've got older, I wanted to tap into. And even in my business branding and feeling, I wanted to show people that I'm very intuitively led and driven. And so I was kind of given the idea in my head from the universe. I saw a friend's photography that she does, and I was like, man, that's beautiful. And I was like, wow, imagine what that would look like to see yourself looking like that. I was like, oh. So I instigated a phone call with her, and we caught up in person. I was like, hey, I know you don't do branding, but for some reason I'm getting this download or this nudge from the universe to be like, what would it look like, this whole strong feminine or masculine feminine mashup? Like, do you want to have a play? And she's like, hell yeah. It's really confronting to see another side of how you're viewed. Like, you're like, when I first saw the picture, I was like, I actually, my immediate reaction, I don't think we put this in the book, I actually messaged her and I was like, oh, did you do some photoshopping? Because you're like, how is that me? And she's like, well, the camera captures you in a moment. That was you in a moment. That is you. So it's confronting to see that picture. And I remember when so we booked the shoot and then I cancelled it. Because I was just like, I can't, what are you doing? What are you doing there? Like, how whimsical to go do something like this. Is it going to ruin your brand? All that stuff.
Well, we should describe the picture for those who haven't seen it, and maybe you could just hold up the book now, Nat. But Nat is wearing a beautiful flowing dress. She's walking on in the sand dunes, I think, on a black sand beach, and the dress is blown out by the wind, and it's the fabric is just rippling and draping beautifully, and it looks feminine but also powerful. So really show-stopping
quite different
image.
from that one.
And quite different from the previous book. We'll put the two up
Yeah.
with the show notes. But the other one is more of a corporate look with some graffiti in the background, so never quite what you're expecting from a pure corporate look, I guess. So that's you, Nat, always bringing a little bit of a surprise. But it was intriguing to me how that you're already done so well in your business and you're so well known and loved, but the idea of presenting yourself differently was really confronting. And so getting through that block was a really important part of you becoming unstoppable.
I totally agree. And I think the irony in that, being scared to see what other people think, they're kind of like, they've already seen that part of me. It wasn't a surprise. Like, of course, everyone was in awe because it's a stunning photo in terms of photography and art. But they weren't surprised at that part of me. But I was the last one to catch up to that part of me and accept that part of me. So that's where it was confronting.
No, you can't see yourself the way the world sees you.
Yeah. And I remember asking permission for friends, what do you think? Do you think I should put it out? And they're like, what the hell? Get it out there. And actually, ironically, it's become one of my, oh my gosh, the words going on my head, most liked or downloaded Facebook advert picture. Yeah. Like, who would have known that?
Doing something differently had a big impact. So well done.
Yeah. So I think becoming yourself was very much about what do you think? What do you trust? What do you want to do? What if you just trusted it? Even if you don't know everything, from being a recovering perfectionist, we need to know all the time. What if you don't know? But what if you trusted that the nudge from the universe was the right one? And then I've created a new website with a mashup of all my pictures, and it's stunning. Like, it's like it all works. And if I'd questioned it and tried to control it, I don't think I'd have the same outcome.
Well, after seeing that one, I'm really curious next time you rebrand to see what comes next. Like, it'll have to be amazing to top that one. Put both of those up. So let's talk about your decision to write a book and become an author in the first place. So as I said in the intro, this is your second book. Your first one came out, I think, 2020. Yeah. So 3 years ago now. So tell me what inspired you to write a book.
I've always loved reading. I love reading. I appreciate readers. I think at school I did all the I did journalism for school year. I don't even know what the years are anymore. Anyway, I love journalism and got some really good marks. I love that part of the world, and I love writing. And I was always doing blogs and poetry. Like, I've always written some form. And I remember in one of my jobs, my boss at the time, he was trying to be really nice for me, but he actually really dampened a dream. He told me I wasn't a great writer and that I had to pass a lot of my emails through to him first before they were put through to whoever they had to go to. So for me, that killed off a lot of confidence. So my first book is very much flipping the birdie to him.
Did you send him a copy?
No, but I remember him seeing it, and I think I had written a lot of things like blogs, and I was like, I'd love to be an author. And I suppose there was a dreamy, whimsical part that came in. Like, yeah, I can write a book. Oh my gosh, it is not dreamy and whimsical, people.
It's certainly a labor of love.
And I don't even know. I remember doing the first one going, there's so not a second book. And after the second book, I'm like, oh, dude, I'm done. I'm actually done. But then you say that and you'll be like, so, but I learned so much through the process. It's been eye-opening.
So your first book, Allergic to Perfect, was really about your philosophy of taking imperfect action, not getting in your own way, showing up and doing things consistently. And it's really, if I were to summarize parts of it, it's really a guide to operate being in business for yourself. It's got all of the essential actions that you should be taking to just move that needle bit by bit in a realistic way. So that's the starting point, I guess, for somebody who's starting their own business. Yeah. And then become unstoppable. When we were working on it, you did say to me, no, we don't need to go back to basics on some things. You know, we're operating at a different level now. It's for that next elevation of the entrepreneur. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think it was when, and I think it's very timely when you are at that time of when you're in your business, and the type of books that I write with that free flow sense that, the feedback from Allergic to Perfect has been that it's dog-eared. They've got post-it notes that they go back to it like it's a Bible, it's a guide. And I think very much for me writing that first, but with a platform of saying what I wanted to say, like no one talks about these things. What if I spoke about them? And the validation from other people going, holy shit, I feel like that. And now you've said that, I feel great about it or okay about it. And yeah, I think that's also then gave me the confidence to become unstoppable. Because again, it was like, oh, I've got these concepts which I think need to be spoken about. I think other people would appreciate me talking about them because I know that a lot of people when they're in after their first stages of business, they're like, what is this thing I keep doing? Oh, I do it. So we just get to normalize the journey for each other.
Yeah. And you write in the book about the lockdown periods of 2021, 2020, and how actually that was a period of growth for your clients or moving into that unstoppable phase.
Yeah.
Do you want to share that?
I think it was more, it was really a blow your hair back moment in retrospect, looking back over COVID, and what prompted that chapter about, hey, actually, at that time, no one knew what to tell anyone in terms of advice because no one knew actually what was going to happen. And the only people in that point in time of who could lead their own businesses were the business owners themselves. Like, what do you want to do? What's your next right step? And when I guided my clients and myself through that, I'm like, what if we kept this going? What if after lockdowns, you decided what felt right? You decided the next steps, that you fully backed yourself, that you were expert enough, that you don't need constant external, the accountability is important, but actually just stopping asking for feedback. What shall I do next? Actually, you do know. And again, it's that reiteration of stop learning and consuming and do more execution.
And that's a remarkable transition to come out of that period of time that was so difficult for so many, and where you may have felt maybe afraid to sell or afraid to put yourself out there because of what other people might be experiencing in that time. And so to come through that, for your clients to come through that with that deeper sense of connection to their inner knowing and trusting themselves and backing themselves, it's really going to be the launch pad for becoming unstoppable, right?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point because I've learned early on, and it's as uncomfortable as it is, it's not our job to join the suffering of others. It's if you can keep moving forward, keep moving forward. By joining the suffering, it's not actually helping them. It's actually stopping you being able to go back out to the economy and help stimulate it, help give hope, be that beacon. And often the vibration of hope when shit's going real wrong is just a beautiful space to hold. And so knowing that with the suffering, like, God, there's so many people who can't work. How can I help them? I can help them by showing up and doing something about it. That helped me through that COVID piece, and that's also helped me through, some of the devastation that New Zealand has had. Of course, that doesn't mean that I don't feel them and have a lot of empathy, but actually suffering and not doing anything does not help them. I can go help them in many other ways and saying, we haven't forgotten about you. We're here. We're actually over here keeping it moving for you. And when you're ready, we're going to embrace you back in.
Beautiful. So tell me what writing a book has done for your business.
It costs to write a book, right? But it's the best lead generator I've ever put into my business. So someone reads your book, sees your other marketing, but it's the book that brings the tangibility and the credibility to, there's a trust that, because I share openly in both of the books. And oh my God, even more so when I've become unstoppable. I'm shitting my pants.
Vulnerability hangover, I think that's called.
Yeah, but that vulnerability builds such a quick connection that, I literally have people going, I want to work with you because I've read your book. So what happens is, though that costs you to write the book, the actual customer, it just brings money. So it might cost me $10,000 to do these books, but actually it returns way more because it brings me clients. So my packages then get sold. So, books can add thousands, hundreds of thousands to your business.
And the lovely thing about your book, like you say, it's dog-eared, but it's dog-eared by both current clients who keep it as a reference manual, and then new clients or potential new clients who might want to work with you and get the real flavor of Nat and Nat's system or ethos by reading the book first. And then that really helps them to understand, yes, this is the right step for me, or not, the case may be.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because a lot of people will think that they in business have to have what we call low cost product, a $47 product. So actually that's the book is that for me. And now that we have, you can do audio books, people are already asking me if I'm going to do an audio of it. I'm like, oh, man, just let me get it printed first.
I do recall you sitting in the wardrobe recording the audio for book number 1 during the lockdown, right? So
exactly. And so then you can put stuff on Amazon. There's just you can reach so many more people. Of course, that takes effort. You can't just, it's not a set and forget. But if you're looking for a way to generate leads, establish credibility, then writing a book, I would highly recommend it.
And how did the process of writing the second book differ from writing the first one?
Oh, I literally had to get Christine to hold my hand so much out of the way. I was like, I think I was getting so annoyed with, why do other people just be able to write them in weekends? Why don't I have a research book?
Are you pedestaling that?
Yeah. I think that's the thing is, the first book there was a lot of IP already written, and the second book was literal from scratch. As much as we shaped it at the beginning, that helped us launch off. I think it had to be written this way, which I think you said it really well in a post the other day about, was it free flow?
Yes.
That I just had to let go of. That's how it was being written in the moment of how I was understanding the concepts, as opposed to, go write about this concept. Does that make sense? So I'm learning that that's my writing style, and that's actually okay.
I think for you, the ideas were taking shape as you were writing. Whereas perhaps with book 1, there was more of a system that you'd been teaching for a little while, so you knew this goes here, this goes there. Whereas in this one, the unstoppable concept had emerged through that pandemic period, and you were still perhaps making sense of it.
I think I'm still going through it myself.
And so the book has helped those ideas to crystallize, take shape, and for you to understand what it is that you were knowing on a deeper level.
I agree. I wouldn't, and this isn't just an obvious shout out to you, but having a book coach who then is your editor, it makes the process. Look, I'm a hard taskmaster for myself. I get a lot done. If I hadn't had you as my book coach, I wouldn't have pushed through. I would have stopped a long time ago. So having someone who understands it and can keep you moving and momentum and knows how to untangle is really important.
Thank you. And any last advice for would-be authors?
Oh, you start now. It takes way longer than you think. Like, just start, because it's going to take 1 to 2 years. Like, just get started, please. Stop messing about and just start, because you're going to go on such a journey that you have to start. There's no fast track through it. As much as, you can get frameworks and all that stuff, just start. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's very good advice, I have to say. Sometimes clients will come and they, I want to write a book and I want it done in 90 days or 120 days. And that it can be done, but that's a really hard road, I think. And because the ideas will take more shape as you write them. It's a process, and sometimes it needs to percolate, sometimes it can't be rushed. So I think giving yourself again the grace of time when it comes to a book project is really sound advice. Thank you so much, Nat. It's been really fun talking to you and revisiting.
Thanks for having me.
And enjoy your book tour, your book launch. It's newly, when this goes to air, it will be released. So I look forward to seeing it in everybody's hot little hands.
Well, I think the funny thing is about having a book called Become Unstoppable, I was like, I have to take it on tour, because, to show that to become unstoppable, that integrity piece. So I'm like, man, whose idea was this?
You got to show up again, Nat. Are you going to wear the dress?
No, which I'm going to make a joke about. This is not my standard walk on the beach attire, guys. I do not walk on the
No flowing dresses down at Ottawa Beach.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. Really enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.